Did you know that only about 3% of businesses ever reach the $1 million in annual revenue? And of those, even fewer make it to the $10 million mark. So what separates the few that scale from the many that don't? Welcome to Dollars and Dreams, the podcast designed to empower you to take control of your personal and business finance. You know, the very thought of money and finance can often send chills down your spine and stir up fear of the unknown. But let's change that narrative together. Through this podcast, my goal is to not only to provide you with useful information, but also to inspire and motivate you to take action towards your own financial goals. Let's rewrite your money story together. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Dollars and Dreams. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about something that a lot of small businesses feel pressured to do, and that is scale your business. Now, not every business wants to scale, and not every business should scale. So some people will start a small business just because they want the freedom to not work full time. They might want the freedom to not answer to a boss, and they may want the freedom that their small business can give them that they can't get by working for somebody else or even in a bigger business. And I always say, I started my accounting practice way back when my eldest child went to school. And the reason that I chose to start my own small business rather than just going back into the corporate world where I had come from was because I wanted freedom. I didn't want to scale at that stage. I wanted just a place that I could earn an income. I could still be a mum to my 3 small babies, although one of them was at school, so he wasn't a baby. But I wanted the freedom to be able to go over to the school when they were doing a song at the assembly or when they were doing home reading and they wanted mums and dads in the classroom to help the kids learn how to read. I also wanted to be able to duck over to the school when they had an athletics carnival or a swimming carnival, and I didn't want to have to ask my boss for time off. I also didn't want those times to be part of my annual leave, because if I took all the time that I had being a mum as part of my kid's life as annual leave, we would never have had time to have annual leave as a family. So for me, starting a business was not about scaling, although I did eventually scale, and it wasn't about being bigger or better at what I was already doing. It was about giving me the freedom to do what I wanted in my life. And of course, you'd have heard me talk about the 3 freedoms that every business owner should have. Financial freedom, which of course is important, but also mind freedom and time freedom. So for me, I could sacrifice some of the financial freedom for the time freedom that I wanted, and also the mind freedom. Because when I first started my business, I was very small. I didn't take a single client from my former employer. I started from scratch, so I started from ground zero, and I built gradually over the years. And it was word of mouth, because back when I started my business, there was no real social media. I don't even know if there was social media at the time, but it literally was word of mouth. I put feelers out to people that might have wanted to send clients my way, and I worked on building a good business from the ground up. And, I always say to everybody, start with the end in mind. I did see that at some point I would scale because I wanted to be able to have an income when I was on annual leave. So, of course, when you're on your own as a small business, if you're not working, there is no income for your business. And, quite often you'll hear people say that really all you've done is bought yourself a job. If you don't have people working for you, there is no customer care when you're away. There is no freedom from the business. There is also no income when you're not working. So that can be part of the reason that you want to scale. It can be part of the reason that you don't want to scale either. So the pressure that we all feel as small business owners is that you must scale. And look, I love social media, don't get me wrong, but I'm also very critical of social media in that social media can tell us to do things that we may not want to do. And you will hear it all the time if you're following anybody that is about building businesses, that you must scale, you must grow your followers, you must grow your database, you must build and become bigger and better. That is not for everyone. So be very clear on what you want. Now, there's nothing wrong with following these social media accounts to find out how to be better at what you're doing, but don't feel that you have a need to scale. So today's podcast is around you making a decision whether you want to scale or not scale. And I'm going to give you both sides of that coin so that you can work out what you want to do and what is best for you without feeling that pressure of social media and other businesses telling you that you want to get bigger. And I've worked with clients in my business that they start to scale and then realize it's not for them. They don't want the pressure of dealing with staff. They may not want the pressure of the liability that comes with having staff because, of course, we're legally liable for whatever our staff do. There is a point that you would know whether you want to scale or not to scale. And of course, if you are going to scale, you need to get your foundations right. Otherwise, it will become a nightmare when you scale. So the first thing that I want you to understand is that scaling is not for everybody. Some people, as I said, are quite happy just having a profitable business that gives them the lifestyle they want. It doesn't create any stress because they know what they've done they're accountable for. And it's not necessarily about the size of your business is your profitability. So I've done a podcast on the 6 stages of business growth a few weeks ago. If you don't, or if you haven't listened to that, jump in and listen to it. Also on our website, jenrichardson.co, I've got information on scaling your business to find out what stage you're at, what the next stage looks like, and whether that is even for you. And I do have a course on the 6 stages of the business life cycle where you can jump in. I think it's $49, but you can jump in and sign up for that course, and we'll go through the different stages, and I go through what you need to know before you move to the next stage, but also to give you all the tools and templates that you'll need to grow or make a decision not to grow. Remember, not making a decision is still making a decision, because if you choose not to scale and your business keeps growing, you've actually scaled without you realizing it. So if you don't want to scale, you need to put systems in place so that you don't grow over and above what you want to be. That's not to say that you don't want to get new consumers each year, or customers or clients or whatever you call them, because there is always a natural attrition to your client base. So you do need to have some growth each year to keep the status quo, but understanding what that growth is so that you don't inadvertently move to the next stage of the business life cycle is really important. So work out what you want from your business, work out what your freedoms are. So those 3 freedoms. If your business gives you the financial freedom that you want and you're getting the time freedom because you're not working ridiculous hours and you're getting mind freedom because you're going home and you're switching off, then that might be the place that you want to stop. But if you have the goal that you want your business to run without you actually physically doing the work, you might need to look at scaling. So sit down and work out exactly what you want. Don't inadvertently fall into scaling or not scaling if that's not what you want. The other thing that I want to quash right here and now is what you'll see on social media, that scaling makes your business better. Scaling your business is the ultimate to financial freedom. Scaling your business is what you want. Scaling isn't always better. So more isn't always better for you financially, with your mind freedom and your time freedom. So scaling is complex. It's not as simple as what everybody says on social media. There was a news flash. But you've got to keep in mind that when you scale, your business does get more complex. It will have more consumers. It will have more complaint process. There's more systems and procedures you need to put in place. There's more pressure on your income because your expenses are going up. And so there is a lot of challenges, and that's where the social media stuff and all the ones that go, scale your business, it'll give you so much more money. They don't understand that there's a lot in the back end of scaling your business. So if you're not wanting to do more management, you're not wanting to do more controlling things, then maybe scaling's not for you, because of course, as you scale your business and grow, you will have less time to do the day-to-day stuff that you do now. If you're one of those people that go, I want to get off the tools, I don't want to do the day-to-day stuff, then you may want to scale so that you can bring in other people to do that day-to-day work and you just build a business and run a business. So I always say to people when they're trying to make a decision whether they will scale is effectively you will become a CEO of your own business. Is that what you want? And if the answer to that is no, then probably don't scale. If you want and you have that business drive and you want to be bigger and better and have that real creative input rather than the physical input, then scaling probably is for you. So work out what you see your life as. I made a decision years ago to scale my business here, my physical business, 123 Financial Group, because I wanted to be able to be a CEO. I love that. I work with businesses showing them how to be better at their own business. And for me, that was about me scaling my own business so I could be a CEO of my business. And I love this digital platform that I've created at jenrichardson.co because I get to reach more business owners and people wanting to get control of their money and their finance. And that was my real passion. So when I decided to scale a few years ago, and it was a conscious decision for me that I wanted to scale and I wanted to grow my business so that I didn't have to do the day-to-day financial stuff and the tax returns and all of those things that my staff now do. I mean, I still do it, don't get me wrong. Because I want to keep my hand in it. There's lots of things I still like about it. So I do a 50-50. There's half of my week is being a CEO and half my week still being an accountant, mortgage broker and financial planner. And that's because I chose that way. I wanted a real hybrid approach to what I do. But that was a conscious decision. And that's where I say to you, make a conscious decision on what you want. Don't fall into, I have to grow because that will give me more money. It may not. So think about what lights your fire, what makes you want to do what you do. If you love doing the actual physical or mental work that comes with your business, then you will probably resent your business when you're not doing that anymore. So if you're just running a business, doing your CEO days, working out your direction, looking for new customers, doing the financial side, doing the hiring, doing the systems, procedures, templates, and all those sorts of things that comes with being a CEO of your business, and you don't like that, don't scale. Or you need to scale very quickly so you can employ somebody to do that and you just do the overview of things and then direct it down. So that is part of the business life cycle that I talked about a little bit earlier that I've done a podcast on, and I've got a training course on the business life cycles because it is really important that you know what's ahead and where you want to get to. So if you want to get to that stage that you are just being the umbrella above your businesses and not actually looking for the networking, doing the marketing and doing all those sorts of things, then you need to move through those cycles quite quickly. So maybe jump onto our website and have a look at that course if that is something that you think you might want to do. Scaling your business can also be very constraining in your income and the revenue, and that's part of the business life cycle. So when you start to scale, you need to have a big injection of cash. So it generally will be a money-hungry beast, your business, for a while. So you need to be prepared before you scale for that cash flow pressure that is going to come. So you need to do a lot of for planning, so working out how much you need, what equipment you need. And that's part of what we should be doing in our business anyway. It's part of our business plan to work out what we need and what you need to do. You may need to get funding if you need to do a big investment of cash. But don't think that by getting bigger, particularly in the short term, that you're going to get more money. It's generally the other way around, and you will actually have less money. So you need to prepare for your own budget and your own financial world, as well as the world of your business. So be very careful before you grow that you do have that planning in place and that you have everything that you need to make sure that you're going to be okay cash flow wise. It's as a small business owners, that's one of the reasons that we see a lot of businesses fail. They do start to scale generally without even realizing that they are scaling. And so when they get to that next stage in the business life cycle, there's that real push on the cash and the cash flow, and investment needs to go. And all of a sudden, there's no plan in place. And so they have a negative cash flow. The business owners don't know how, they don't even realize they're scaling. So they make the assumption that their business is not working efficiently. They just haven't understood that they've moved into the next stage of the business life cycle, and they didn't put things in place before they got to that stage so that they could survive it. So it is important that you do make a conscious decision and you do the planning for scaling. And even, as I said at the start, if you don't want to scale, you've got to put something in place so that you don't inadvertently scale. And that's the thing that we see with a lot of business owners that have been in business for 3 to 5 years. And all of a sudden, they've got this real pressure on their cash flow, and it's because they've started to scale without realizing, and now they've got pressure on where they're going to find money. So they make the assumption that their business is going broke, and they'll tend to fold without getting help. So be very careful with your cash flow if you're looking to scale. If you don't want to scale, make a decision, and you need to start saying no to projects. You need to start saying no to people that aren't your ideal customer, so that all you're doing is getting the customers to keep track of the attrition that you lose on a year-to-year basis. The other thing that you need to think about when you're scaling, and this is some of the place that people struggle with, and it was the place that I struggled with, is that you lose that personal touch. So what I loved about my business is the people, and it was what I didn't like when I worked in corporate, because you didn't talk to people on a day-to-day basis. I love in my business that I have clients come back each year and, they've become a grandparent, or they're getting married, or they're having their first child, or they're going overseas, and, they're telling you about all these great life events that are happening for them. And I love that. I'm a people person. So for me to sit in front of people and catch up on what they've done over the last 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or whatever it is, I struggled with that when I first started scaling, that I wasn't seeing these people, or my staff was saying, oh, so-and-so said to say hello to you. They missed not having you this year, and all of those sorts of things. So that's part of the reason that I've done a hybrid approach, where I still do 50% of my week on that face-to-face stuff, and 50% of my work being a CEO. I don't do the background numbers of stuff that I didn't like when I was in, working for a big accounting firm, because I don't get any joy out of processing somebody's data file. My staff do that. I do the meetings. They come into the meetings with me because I think that's important for their growth as well, but also so that if I'm not here, my clients know who else to talk to and know that person intimately. So for me, it was about making sure that as I scaled, I still found a way to have that real personal touch point. If you want to become a CEO and not do that, that's fine. So that has to be a conscious decision. Are you ready to step away from that real personal touch or not? If you still want to scale, find a way that you can do that. It can be 1 day a week. You go out and see your clients, or maybe you drop in on job sites, or maybe you do still do 1 day on the tools, as we say. So you can feel very disconnected from your client base when you scale, depending on how far you scale, of course. Now, the thing that I alluded to early in the podcast was that people that scale inadvertently and don't realize that they're scaling and they have a pressure on their cash flow. The other thing that we see is the pressure of systems, because of course when you were doing the work and it's just you knew exactly what needed to be done. You would, point A to point Z is done. You knew it, you did the same every time because you knew the efficiencies. And of course, when you start to scale and you bring on employees, they are not you. And I know that's a bit of a shock to some employees, but you are not that new employee. They have their own way of doing it. They have their own systems, their own procedures, which they've either done from their previous employer, they've done because they've had their own business, or they're just new and they're finding their way. So you need to, as a business owner, because the success of your business has been because of you. I don't care what anybody says, the success of any small business is because of the business owner. So when you start taking on staff to be you, you need to give them the tools to do that, and that is systems. So I always say to everybody, before you scale, you need to go systems, and systems, because scaling relies on what you did, your employees are doing, so that your customer doesn't feel like they've been neglected, doesn't feel like they're getting an inferior product, and still feels loved. Because every consumer, I don't care whether it's the corporate or the salary and wage person, it does not matter who your consumer is, they all want to feel loved. So systems and procedures will be your lifesaver if you are scaling. Now, don't think for a minute the issue that I see with a lot of people when they scale is they go, that's how I always did it and that's the way it will always be done. Be open to your staff giving you suggestions, because if they've come from another business, you can always bring in the good points of that other business to make your business better. So don't think for 1 minute when you are scaling that your system is the only one. You just need a system in place so that everybody does the same thing. Admittedly, originally, when you first start to scale, your system and procedures is your lifesaver, because that's where your consumer doesn't feel put out that you're not servicing them or doing their work anymore, and that the new person is doing the same job. So they don't become critical of you and your business. But keep in mind that systems and procedures are a moving beast. Technology will change a system. Technology will change a procedure. New staff, new ideas, new areas, new growth periods, new consumers. Everything will change your system and procedure. The key to systems and procedures is to constantly be reviewing and amending and updating. Here is an accounting practice. When I first started, there was no such thing as live lodging to the tax office. We had to batch it, put it on a disc and drop it in at the tax office, or go through their batching system. Then it went directly to a portal, and the tax office would pick it up from the portal. Now we're at a system, we pretty much live lodge. So as soon as we've done a tax return, somebody here reviews it, it gets submitted. When I first started, the clients never had any real accounting software. So, I talk about now all the time about keeping up to date with your accounting software so that you get real numbers. So we call it real-time accounting, so that you can see in your accounting software what happened yesterday, what happened last week, the week before. You're not waiting for your accountant. And of course, when I first started, that sort of software didn't exist. There was no such thing as Xero, MYOB, QuickBooks, any of those. So we had to process a client's work. It all came in paper. They would send their bank statements in, they'd send their receipts and things in. I would die today if a client did that in. So if I was still trying to run my business based on how I started that business in 2006 when I first started it, I would be out of business because it's just an archaic way. So as new technology came in, as new things came in, we had to change our procedure. We're now very much electronically driven as a firm. When I first started even my digital platform, there wasn't as much as there is now. So it is important that you have your systems and procedures in place before you scale, but keep in mind that they are a moving beast and they need to be updated as you move along. The other thing that you need if you're going to scale is a growth mindset or an abundance mindset. So I talk about this on my Thursday podcast a couple of weeks ago because we mostly talk about with individuals whether they have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, but also we talk about the scarcity and abundance mindset around money and how that impacts, because of course the way we think and feel about something works on how we deliver it and how we approach something. And this is such a key thing with all business owners. And I did say in that podcast, so if you haven't listened to that podcast, it was, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think, on a Thursday. But go and have a look. It's on Mindset Matters. And I talk about the fixed and the growth mindset, how that can impact us, because a fixed mindset will tell you that you have limited resources, that you can't do things, you're working within your capabilities, there's no opportunity to grow. If you are going to scale your business, and if you're going to be successful in any business, you need to have a growth mindset. So a growth mindset says that everything is a learning opportunity. If you had a negative review from a customer, instead of putting that wall up to go, I'm hopeless, I can't do it, was never meant to have a business, I should have stayed an employee, a growth mindset will go, here's my opportunity to improve what I do with my business. Now, not every client is going to give you an opportunity to improve your business because, look, there's that very small minority that are never happy. You can present them the world at a really good price and they will still find something to whinge and whine about. A growth mindset can ignore that and just go, I can't do anything about that because that is their issue, not mine. But I can make sure that what they complained about was not an issue within my business and put in something in place to make sure that that quality control is there or that the service standard is there or whatever they were whinging about. Even though it may not be true, it's a good opportunity to reevaluate what you're doing. So it is important that you think about your mindset before you start to scale. You need to take a very good view of what your possibilities of threats are, what the opportunities that you have. And we call that in the accounting world a SWOT analysis. So that's looking at your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And it's not about counteracting every single threat because sometimes you can't. A threat might be that somebody opens up down the street that hasn't scaled and can therefore offer the same product as you, but a lower rate because they don't have the infrastructure that you need. But understanding that that is a threat and how you can counteract that. And that might be that you offer a really good service that somebody on a small scale can't do. So you might be able to, for example, offer a 24/7 service standard. They can't because they can't work 24/7 when it's just them. It might be that your business never closes. They shut for 4 weeks annual leave. So it's about understanding what the threats are and how you can set your business up to counteract those threats. So a growth mindset is also about adaptability. It's about resilience and it's about a willingness to let go of the old ways of doing things. And so your adaptability when you grow is about you moving with the new market you've moved into. Because generally when you scale, you probably move out of the market that you're in now. Just because you're getting bigger doesn't mean you can still have to service the same consumer base that you had before. So you might be looking after mum and dads and you want to start to look after corporate world. Or you might be looking after small pets, and now you want to go to looking after farm animals. So it's definitely an adaptability that you need with your business to understand that where you are now is not where you're going to be, and you need to make changes, as I said, with your systems and procedures is the first thing that you need to be adaptable with, because what once was may not be what is best now. The resilience is about understanding that as you're scaling, there's financial pressure. There's pressure from your consumers that wasn't how you did it before. Your pricing may go up because your on costs are higher. So you've got to be able to be resilient when you're scaling, that there could be some negative comments or negative feedback from your consumer. You also need to be resilient in that as you're scaling, there's a lot of trying and testing things. So you don't want to be one of those people that tries something once and just goes, didn't work, I'll just go back to, working my guts out every day to look after this business. You need to look at why it didn't work. So pull it apart and see what went wrong, why did it not work, how did I not get the result that I wanted, so that you can do the next one better. And you're not probably going to get it the second time you try to do something. You will need to try, test, go back to the market and put other things in place. So resilience is about not taking that negative or the knockback and letting it tell you that the answer is no. It's just not just yet. I didn't get it right now. It's changing your system. When I first started to scale my business, I had a lot of people saying to me, I don't want somebody else, Jen, though. I've always used you. I want you. And my argument to them was, yes, I know, but if I'm burnt out and I can't keep doing this, then you don't have anything. At least here, I've trained these staff to do the same thing that I do. I've made sure I've picked people that have a very similar personality to me, because for me, it was about having a really good environment for people to negotiate or work with me. So I would say to people, if you want me, you can't see me for 6 weeks or you can't get me for 8 weeks. Feel free to make an appointment to see me in 8 weeks' time, or you can get your issue solved and resolved now by seeing one of my staff. I still look after all the work. I still review all the work before anything is done. I still do it. I just can't do it all. And when you start to explain to people why you have started to scale or why they are getting serviced by somebody else, generally most people are okay about it. If they're not, then they weren't a consumer for you anyway. If they're so driven that you are the only person that they can see, then you haven't shown them the value of what you've got in your business. So it comes back to you being value driven and showing the true value that your consumer gets from your business. So going back to my business, if I hadn't been resilient there, I would have buckled and said, all right, I'll squeeze you in, I'll do yours. And then the next person says, oh, Jen, I wish, you were still doing my work. Why aren't you doing it? And then I'd squeeze them in. I'm back to where I was, which is the burnout stage. It also means that while I'm working in my business, I can't work on my business. And if you're going to make your business, even if you're not scaling, if you're going to make your business much more profitable, much more efficient, much more resilient to the market trends, you need to be working on your business as well. So we say to all small business owners, even if they are a one-man band show, you need to take time out of your day to work on your business, because you have to do that SWOT analysis, because otherwise you're the next Video Easy. The world changed, the market moved on. Video Easy didn't grow with it. And, all of a sudden nobody's hiring DVDs. And for you young guys, DVD was our CDs before streaming, before everything. So you don't want to have your business be at that stage that it hasn't morphed with the world. And so if you're working with your head buried in your business, servicing your customers and not doing anything and not looking at your business from the outside in, you will become a victim of the world. So it is important that You look at your resilience as you're growing, because you need to not look at those setbacks as a penalty. They're an opportunity for growth and an opportunity for you to look at another way of doing businesses. So the other thing that I say to people is know when to say no. And this is a really important skill that we need to learn as business owners. And if you don't want to scale, say no. As I said at the start, making a decision about when to scale or if to scale is your decision and your decision only. It's also about knowing when to say when. So I say there that you may want to scale, but it may not be now. So when I first started my business, I didn't want to scale then because it was important to me to be available to be a mum to my small children. My husband was at home with them, so I didn't have to worry about the day-to-day parenting. But I also didn't want to get to the stage that my children had grown up and I hadn't been part of their life on a day-to-day basis. So I was not ready to scale then. I think I had my first business, or the first part of my business, without scaling for 6 years. So my eldest was 5 when I started my business, so he would have been 11. I'd stopped having to go over to the school to do the morning home readers, or they used to call them home readers, teaching kids how to read, or going over to teach them maths so that they got a little bit more than just one teacher on 26 kids or whatever it was. And so I'd gone through that process. They were in the late stages of primary school, and I just went, I'm now ready. So I knew that my when had arrived. I made the conscious decision then to scale. There was nothing wrong with my first 5 or 6 years in business with it just being me. I knew I could walk out the door at 5 o'clock and go home. I was home for dinner. I was home to bath the kids. I was there to help them with their homework. I was there just to be a mum and be part of a family. There were nights, certainly in tax season, that I wasn't home to do those things. But again, I made that conscious decision that I would stay open because I wanted to make sure that we had a good enough cash flow ready for scaling, because I knew that at some point I did want to scale. I didn't know what that point was when I first started my business, but I knew I wanted a life that was more than just being an accountant. So I thrived being a CEO for other people's businesses, and I wanted that for my own business. So I made a conscious decision when I was going to scale, and it was when my kids got older, and I knew when that was going to be. So I did do some scaling, but only for a short period of time, and then I would take my business back to being a 8:30 to 5 position. I even changed my mobile phone number because some of my clients had my mobile phone number, and when it started impacting on my home life, I had clients ring me Saturday morning and I was watching the kids play footy, or I'd be at swimming classes and people were ringing me because they had my mobile number. I then just went and changed my mobile number because it was easier than telling clients that I didn't want them phoning me, because I didn't want to put them off. So all I did was I just got a personal phone number. I would just put a message on that business mobile number just to say, thanks for calling. You've called outside office hours. My office hours are 8:30 to 5, Monday to Friday. I'll return your call as soon as we reopen. Clients soon learnt that I wasn't available for them at any point, and that was important to me. Clients sometimes think that, because I'm very friendly, I'm open, I share everything about my life. My clients have always known what my home life is and talk about the kids, that they thought that meant that they could call me after hours, and I stopped that. I also, if you've listened to any of my other podcasts where I talk about the value of saying no, a couple of years ago, I got rid of a client group that were a couple of medical practitioners. They were medical specialists. They were ringing me at 10:30 at night when they got out of theatre because they had a question that they thought about while they were in theatre, or one of the other surgeons was talking about. Now, they paid me a lot of money each year in my business, but for me, It became more important that there was boundaries. And so they didn't value my boundaries, so I chose to end that relationship. It took a lot of courage to do that because it was a big chunk of money that was walking out of my practice. But in removing that, I had a better mindset and I filled that gap very quickly and continued to grow. So let's quickly go through the pros and cons of scaling and, whether you want to do that. So the pros of scaling is increased revenue and potentially increased profitability. So the major advantage, of course, is if you do scaling right, you will increase your revenue. It is important to understand that scaling revenue is not always scaling profit. So you do need to be very careful there that you keep your profit margins where they should be. If you don't know what a profit margin is, come join me in Pathways to Profit because we'll go through all of that. And it is the thing that will save your business. So Pathways to Profit is one of my courses that is on myjenrichardson.co in my Business Growth Academy. It is where we'll teach you how to be so much better at what you do with your business. Scaling will also give you a greater market share. You can potentially remove some of your competitors because you'll take over a bigger chunk of the market. And some consumers always will think that the bigger you are, the better you must be. It's something that, I've counteracted against a lot with my accounting business here at 123 Financial Group, because I always say bigger isn't always better, because bigger accounting firms are quite often using a lot more trainee accountants and things like that, whereas smaller accounting firms will use just fully qualified accountants. So greater market share can sometimes give a perception that you are better because you've got bigger, and potentially they can be. You can, as I said, squeeze out some of your competitors, which can then give you more profitability as well. Scaling can also give you greater brand recognition. When you're quite small and somebody might put into Facebook, let's use a plumber again. I know we've been using plumbers a lot lately, but let's say in one of the community Facebook groups, somebody puts in, hey, does anybody know a great plumber? And you look in the comments and there'll be 4 or 5 that will come up regularly. And it's because they're probably bigger. So they have a bigger audience that can be a raving fan. And we always say when we're talking about finding your ideal consumer or your ideal customer, or what we call your avatar, is that you want to find that person that is the perfect fit for you, because they will always rave about what you do because you've solved their problems or their issues. So when you have more people that you're solving an issue for, they are a greater voice for you in the community. So let's say, we'll take the two extremes. You've got 100 clients. Your competitor has 100,000 clients. They've got 100,000 clients that your competitor has solved a need for, and they are raving fans for them. So there's 100,000 people out there touting that business. You, on the other hand, have 100 clients, and that 100 clients are still raving about you, but they can only tell, let's say everybody tells one person, they're only telling 100 people how great you are. Your competitor is telling 100,000 people how great you are. So there is that greater ability to have brand recognition and be greater at your promotion. The other side of it is what we call economies of scale. And we all know that. And I'll use an example that's not business related because people understand this one when I talk about it. So let's say you're living in a house and you just live by yourself. You're in a 3-bedroom house. Your electricity bill will be a certain amount. It's not much lower than a house that has 4 people living in it, because when you've got the kitchen light on cooking, or you're cooking, you're using the same amount of electricity in that kitchen as the house with 4 people living in it. You have the same probably televisions running, you've got the same fridge, you've got the same everything. They will have slightly higher because maybe there's 2 televisions instead of 1. Maybe there's 3 bedroom lights on instead of just 1 bedroom light, things like that. But that doesn't make a significant impact. So that's the economies of scale. So when we take it to a business, let's say you've got an office space. So we'll use this example here. I pay rent regardless of whether I have one person here, me, or whether I have 20 people sitting here at desks. Now, admittedly, if it was just me, I wouldn't rent a premises as big as this. But if I have 10 people here, as opposed to 20 people, my rent is the same because I need this space for 10 people. I could easily fit 20 in, but the rent is not going to be anymore. So that's economies of scale. So when you get bigger and you scale your business, you get that economies of scale. You'll have one administration for 10 employees. You'll have one administration for 20 employees. So it's not that the costs go up in the same proportion. Yes, you may have to move to bigger premises when you first start, but remember that was what I talked about earlier with the cash flow issues that you need to prepare for. You can also generally attract a better talent for your business. And I say potentially because not everybody wants to work for a bigger firm, but some people see that they've got an ability to go through the ranks potentially. So, look, we'll use an accounting practice as an example again. I have a small business here. I am very much a small business. I only have staff of about 12. So somebody can come here and they go, no, I'm probably not going to go through and be able to manage a team. My staff are all fully qualified. So nobody else dictates to anybody else. It's me and it's me only. If somebody wants to be a manager but doesn't want to be a business owner, this place here is not going to attract them because they want to manage a small team. They also may want to move up that they're off the tools and be a manager where they don't want to do the day-to-day work. They want to manage staff, talk to clients, review work and build a business. This is not going to be the place for them. One of the big firms that have 100 staff or 170 staff will be the place for them. They may also want to take ownership of the business. Now, at this stage, I'm not prepared to share ownership because I have my certain goals and I've learnt to say no to that. So it may not be the place. But if somebody is looking for a place to do that, and they will look at my firm and a firm that's got 200 employees, if that's the role for them, they're going to be attracted to that. The staff that I have here that attract to me as opposed to the individual is that they want to be able to have that face-to-face stuff with the clients. My staff love having meetings with their clients, helping their clients. So they're me on a different scale. And so that's how I attract my staff. But as I said, sometimes scaling is that people that might attract a different talent. It may be that, we'll come back to the plumber again. They may not want to be digging the trenches. So they want to go to a bigger firm where they've got labourers that do that. They may not want to do the house things. They may want to do commercial. So they will tend to be attracted to the bigger one. So keep in mind that scaling can sometimes get you better talent or a greater talent pool, not necessarily talented people. It can also increase the valuation of your business. So if you get to the end of your working life, you want to sell it to, whoever's in your team that wants to take over their business, or you may want to sell it on the market. Being bigger can increase the valuation. It's not always the case though, so be very careful with that one. And of course, for every pro, there's a con. So the scaling of your business, as we said earlier, will increase the complexity of your business because now you've got to manage staff, you've got to manage a bigger workload, you've got to manage the operations from an outside point of view, and there is a lot more complexities. You've got to write the systems and procedures that I talked about. There's also cash flow challenges, particularly when you first start scaling. There can also be when you're bigger, if there is something that goes wrong, it goes wrong on a huge scale. You get something wrong when you're a very small business and you're working with contracts that are $10,000 contracts. You're not going to lose a lot of money. But all of a sudden, if you've scaled and your contracts are now 300 and 400,000 or even more, something goes wrong, you potentially can lose a lot of money. So there is a lot of challenges for cash, profitability, and of course your cash flow challenges of if a $400,000 contract, if that whoever your consumer is goes under, you lose $400,000. That's a huge chunk of income. I don't care how much your business is. If you've got a $5,000 client and they go under, then it's $5,000. You can survive. I'm not saying $5,000 is not a lot to small businesses, but it is a recoverable amount. We have clients here that aren't necessarily my ideal clients. And sometimes they'll say to me, your pricing's getting too big. You don't do our work anymore, blah, blah, blah. And they'll say, if you don't start doing my work, we're going to go somewhere else. My answer to them is always, it has been lovely working with you, but we're obviously not the right firm for you, because I am not going to be dictated to, one, by my clients, because it is my business and I design my business how I want it to serve me, not my consumer. And I know that can sound selfish, but it is about you designing your business to be what you want it to be. But also because those clients generally won't be my high-paying clients, and they think that their impact is going to have a huge impact on my income. If they are that type of client, I'm going to fill their spot very quickly. I have made a point now. I'm very selective on my consumers that I let come into my business, because I'm at the other end of my scaling where I've got it to a situation I want now. So I only want to work with the clients that I want to work with. So when people start to threaten that they're going to take their work elsewhere, they can take it elsewhere, because it's not going to make a huge impact on my business. I've got people that want to work with me, and I will fill that gap very quickly. The other thing with scaling can be that you overextend yourself, because if you grow too quickly, you haven't built your systems and procedures, you haven't got a solid plan in place, you can be overspending, you have operational problems because you don't have the systems in place, and of course you've got to get your staff trained up. So you need to be prepared that when you first start scaling, not only is there a huge amount of intensive money that you potentially have to add into the business, there is going to be an investment in your time as well. And that can be exhausting. So you need to prepare for scaling. And one of the things that we see a lot of businesses fail in is that they scale too quickly. I'll use the social media thing here. You have everybody that goes, I just want one video to go viral, and then, I'll have made it. If that one video goes viral and all those consumers come to your business, if you can't service all those people, then your business will fail, because you will get a bad reputation far quicker when you fail than you get a great reputation for when you succeed. So it is important that you have those systems and procedures in place ready for scaling, but also that you want to be careful that you're not overextending yourself, and then you get a bad reputation and you'll fail. There's also, as I said, the potential for burnout. And this is the one that I see the most often, because people will start to scale, particularly the ones that are scaling without realizing that they're scaling. And so they just go, I'm working 7 days a week, I'm not getting any more money, I'm exhausted, I'm throwing the business in and I'm going back to work for somebody. It's because they didn't understand the stage of business growth that they were in or what they were heading into. And that's where my training course I've got on my jenrichardson.co platform is scaling your business, and the stages of business growth is so important to do. One, if you don't want to scale, to make sure that you stay where you are, but also if you think that you want to scale, to know what you need to put in place before you get there, because planning and goal setting and procedures will always be your savior in business, regardless of whether you're scaling or not. So my takeaways for this is scaling is not for everybody. Make it a conscious decision if and when you want to scale. Make sure that you do a lot of planning and procedures for scaling before you get there, and that will save the heartache of feeling overwhelmed, the cash injection that needs to go in, and all of those sorts of things. Keep in mind that you can scale your business if and when you want to, and you can scale it by design. So as I said, I've scaled my business to where I wanted to. I didn't want to scale any further on my physical business. Obviously, I want to scale my digital platform, which is, where I'm trying to achieve my goal of I want to help 10,000 small businesses be better at their business and 10,000 individuals be better at their own financial freedom. I can do that on a digital platform that I can't do in a physical office space. So for me, I've designed my business that this physical space that I have here is at its capacity now. My digital platform is where I want to scale my advice and help for small business owners. So reach out to me here at jenrichardson.co if you need any help in being better at your business. Come and join my very short course on scaling your business, which is the 6 stages of the business life cycle. It's only $49. It's a self-paced, very short module where I can help you through all the scaling and also the things that you need to be aware of, all the check sheets and procedures and templates you need so that you can make a decision about your business as to whether you scale it or not scale it. Keep in mind that your business is there to give you your personal goals, not the other way around. So design your business to give you what you want from the 3 freedoms, which is financial freedom, mind freedom, and time freedom. And that is different for everybody and no cookie cutter advice for your business. So thank you for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe where you're either watching or listening to this podcast so that you get notified when we drop our next podcast. And of course, I've got lots of free tools and templates over on our website, jenrichardson.co, in our Business Growth Academy. And I'd love you to come join me in Pathways to Profit, where I help you be better at being in business. So I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining me today. Remember, the advice shared in Dollars and Dreams is general in nature and it does not consider your own personal circumstances. Dollars and Dreams is for educational purposes only and should not be relied upon to make investment or financial decisions. If you need more help, please reach out to a financial advisor for tailored personal advice. Don't forget to click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future content. And please leave me a review. Your feedback really helps me to reach other people chasing their money dreams. You can find me over on Facebook and Instagram to connect with me. You will find the link in the bio or head over to my website at jenrichardson.co where you will find free content and learning tools.